Today we're going to start looking at a reviewing of whole numbers and then looking at decimals. Why do we need them? What is important about knowing your place value of your whole numbers and your decimals? So let's think about why those things might be important. Some of the reasons you might look at is if you're talking about gallons, like gallons of paint, gallons of milk, gallons of gasoline, how much you might need, how much it's going to cost per gallon. You might not always need a whole gallon of paint, so you might be talking about a half of a gallon or a couple pints, but what portion of that is out of the gallon? How big it might be for the room, so how much you might need depending on the perimeter area of the room or how you're going to be painting it. If you're going to paint all of those walls, what's it's going to be? That might be important as well. If you're trying to deliver mail, if they don't have the digits in their right places, it's going to be difficult for the mailman to get the mail delivered to the right spot. If your address is 2043rd Friendswood Drive and you have 2034, because I flipped them and I don't understand the importance of the place value, or if even 2304, because you don't understand the place value, then you wouldn't know that, oh, it must be in this correct spot for it to actually make it there. Same thing if I was going to try and go to a friend's house. If I was to go to a friend's house, I probably wouldn't make it if I didn't know that made sure that my digits were in their right places so that I could find where I was going to go. I surely wouldn't be able to put it in MapQuest and find it, or I'd be going and knocking on the wrong friend's house. Maybe I'd make a new friend. Your batting average, definitely something that's going to be important. You probably wouldn't be making on a major league team if I flipped my digits around, and I gave one of the batting average, instead of giving Miguel a 321 thousandths as his batting average, and I moved my digits around because I didn't understand the importance, and it was a 123 thousandths batting average. He probably wouldn't be doing quite as well. He probably wouldn't be doing good. It wouldn't be quite a very good batting average. So it's very important. They want to make sure when they're calculating their averages, that they're doing it, they know what they're doing, because that's going to make a big difference. Same thing when you're going to go and get gas. If you guys have ever noticed, it's got like how much it costs, and it'll have like this little 9 out on the side. Sometimes it's written over, it'll have it as a fraction, and so for every 9/10 it's going to add, you're going to get 9/10, but remember you're over here, so it's 9/10 of the hundredths place, which is it's 9 thousandths, because it would just keep going from the decimal is what it is. It just stops at the hundredths, and it's kind of a little one because we don't have money smaller than a penny. But so every time you get there, that it can add how much it's going to be. Same thing in the library. It helps you decide so you can find your books and where they're at in the library because of what category they might be in within that. If they're talking about history, and then if it's World War II, and just gets more and more specific, and that's what all of the numbers in the Dewey Decimal System tell us in the library. Also, whenever you're getting storage, that you have, your memory or your storage, or that's out on the internet that you have to get, or like anything that you might get on your cloud space, if you have to get more storage, that is done out into the decimal places in your megabytes. So let's just kind of recap. So we've talked about, you guys have all looked at doing the whole numbers. Y'all done that for a while. So remember, first you have your units period, and it's got ones, tens, and then hundreds. Then your first common number takes you to your thousands period. Remember, in each period it still starts with the 1,000s, and then it goes to the 10,000s, and then your 100,000s, and then it starts the next period, which is your millions period. And in the millions period, again, it will start with 1, but it's 1 millions, and then so the next one would be your 10 millions, and then your 100 millions, and so on and so forth. So each period still has your ones and your tens and your hundreds. Well, it's the same as if you go on to the other side of the decimal. If I'm behind the decimal, I still have the same ones. I just don't start with the ones, because remember, we're talking, if you're on this side in front of the decimal, it's the whole numbers. So I can't have a 1 because I'm not at a whole yet. So I don't have one whole. So when I get here, it's my first. That's why it's called the one, 'cause it's the one whole. So when you're on this side, it starts off on the tenths, because remember in our word base 10, because our number system, because it takes 10 of the smaller unit to make it into the next. So for example, let's kind of jump back real quick. If I'm looking here, it takes 10 ones to make a 10, 10 tens to make 100, 10 hundreds to make 1,000, okay? So same thing here. So if we go at the tenths place, it takes 10 tenths to make one whole, takes 10 hundredths to make 1/10, and then, or if we even we're going to go from the hundredths to the whole, it would take 100 hundredths to make one whole, and so on and so forth. 1,000 thousandths to make one whole, okay? So if you think about it, if we come back and we're still looking at kind of like when you guys looked at it last year and you talked about your tenths, you think about the coin that's a tenth, that's a tenth of 1/10 of the whole would be like your dime, okay? And it takes 10 dimes to give me one whole. So think about on the hundredths and what coin that would be, okay? Like your penny. So it takes 100 pennies, and so when I have 100 pennies, it gives me one whole, okay? I kind of like to remember, if you think like there's kids in the family, and then the kids each have a dad and a mom, but they're still your parents regardless, and that's kind of why they start, it's the 10 and then the 10, but it's tenths when you're decimal, because you're not a whole number yet, and it's just the tens over here. Kind of same thing. They just keep moving. So 100. This would be kind of like talking about your grandparents. So it's my 100 and my hundredths, my hundreds, and thousands, thousandths. So it's just got the THS on the end of it. So the root word changes a bit, but it's still the same regardless of which side of the decimal, which side of that whole number that you're on. Okay. So go on to the next one and go ahead and go to these games and try to do some practice with this for a bit if you want. And then don't forget to answer the questions of telling me summarizing what you learned in this video. Kind of break it down, explain to me what you learned, and make sure it's in complete sentences. And then also give me a question that you might have that you didn't quite understand, or a question that you think someone else might not quite understand. And if you can't think of any of those because it all was super clear, then go ahead and give me a question that would be a good question for me to use to kind of on a quiz or so to check your knowledge on this. All right, we'll talk about that tomorrow.